Now let's get into it on the other side.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Jeffrey Loaded back to you from a long vacation for On the Other Side Leadership After Transition. If you don't know anything about this show, real quick, it's easy. We have people that have transitioned from service, whether they served for forever and then retired and got out, or a couple years and got out. It doesn't matter at what level you transition. The fact is, every experience is worth telling. I like to share the stage with folks to give their perspective of their challenges, of their achievements, of the successes of their transition, so you can understand that, well, you're not the first person to transition and you won't be the last. And so let's gain some knowledge, right? So here we are. What we'll do is we'll go through a story of what the military service member went throughout their military journey, then the transition, some experiences they can give you, some pros, cons, tips to see how you can maybe avoid some of the pitfalls, right, of that transition, and then talk to you a little bit about what they're doing now, and then share some stories that maybe just are fun, right, and to lightheartedness that I like. I love the humor of it all, but that's pretty much the show's tempo and what we do, the agenda, if you will, and it's going to be really exciting. Before we get into the, I don't need to introduce. You'll see I don't. And plus, if you've probably already seen it on LinkedIn, so you know who you're listening to. But Military Creator Con, hey, look, you're going to see a lot of these shirts over the next few months because, well, I got many of them, and I also have a laundry machine, washer machine downstairs. So don't think I'm wearing the same dirty stuff all the time. But Military Creator Con coming to you in April of next year, April 16th through 18th in Texas, Arlington, Texas. Hope you come. Military creators, veteran, whether you're a content creator, YouTuber, if you're an author, if you do some type of creation, you're invited. There's going to be great guests that are going to be coming there, speakers, and all the things. I hope to see you there. We're really proud of it. We've been working on it for a few years, so it's going to be awesome. It's out in Arlington, Texas. I don't know what to do in Arlington. I'm sure you'll tell me. Anyhow, all that stuff aside, let's move into why we're here. Today, we're going to have, you know what? I'm not even going to do the introduction. I'm just going to bring them on. So welcome, Mr. Beau Higgins. What's going on, boss? How are you?
I'm great, Jeff. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it. I feel bad. I'm not wearing one of my signature jackets, but it's a little warm here in Florida right now. So look, you're ready. You're ready. You're showing me up.
I was prepared. I'm only going to put on. Hey, this jacket, I want to tell you real quick. I wear it, right? Now this, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to credit Red Sky, Carol Monroe, and James Monroe. They gave this to me as a gift when I was with the company a couple years back, and I love it. But I'll tell you, it was inspired because you, carefree, you walk around, and whenever I'm anywhere, man, I see Beau Higgins. I just see the jackets, and I come running. So I was prepared. I had it stashed away over here just in case you brought yours. So.
I'm impressed. I like to wear it, but I said, it's 100 degrees in Florida right now, so I wear them. But fashion has a price sometimes. A little heat. Usually I do it, but I'm toning it back today. But great to be here for sure.
I love it. You see how I was prepared, though. I was just
I figured. I knew it. You're ready. That's good.
So I love the fact you're here. Thank you so much for coming. I want to tell the listeners. So back in 2017, I was retiring. We brought 4Block down to Tampa, and that was the first time. Prior, I had seen you on LinkedIn. I had seen you in places, but nothing that we never had a reason, if you would, to interact. At that time, it was late 17, early 18 is when you were at Amazon still, and I will get into that part. But that's when you and I got to meet for the first time. And man, oh man, I will tell you, you left an impression on me as a career readiness instructor with 4Block, but to the people you've touched, to talk to, you could just see that the energy you bring, the positivity you bring, and you can do this type mentality through the transition. It was just awesome. It was infectious. And I'm telling you, I've tried to keep that same mantra as I move, just because you instilled that confidence in me and the group of folks that were with us. So that's a quick introduction to everybody about how you and I first met. But let's talk a little bit about Beau Higgins. So former Marine, let's go to your career a little bit. You joined the Marine Corps and kind of tell me what you did throughout that process. What led you to the Marines, first of all, and then let's walk through your career a bit.
Yeah. I mean, what led me there? So my dad was a Marine. I think as many of us that joined the military, there's some type of a family influence, whether it's your father, your uncle, your grandfather, or something. My dad was he was enlisted and before I was born, and that he was kind of in that period between Korea and Vietnam. So late 50s, early 60s. But he would always tell war stories about his buddies and how they were getting in trouble and doing crazy things. I said, that sounds pretty good. So fast forward, I'm finishing up college. I go to University of Virginia, and I did know what I wanted to do. I knew I was not a great student by any means. I was great in the fraternity house. I mean, I was an All-American in the fraternity house. I was not doing very well in the books, probably. And again, all my buddies are going to law school or going to get their MBA. And I'm like, it's not for me. And I literally saw the Marine Corps recruiter standing outside the library. And I'm like, I'm going to go talk to this guy and see what's up. And started talking to him. And I'm like, all right, this sounds pretty good, And next thing you know, I figured I would do it for like 4 years as something that would be, that would set me up for success, to eventually go back and get my MBA. 25 years later, I retired as a colonel. So I had no intention. I was not in ROTC, had never, just jumped into it as something that I thought would be fun, interesting way to kind of, not be in college, not do the school thing for 4 years, and just, fell in love with it. But I was an intel guy, a SIGINT guy. They say that, Marine intelligence is the ultimate oxymoron, right? I guess I've heard the jokes a lot.
I've got a bunch.
Yeah, exactly. But had a great run. I mean, truly, like I said, did not ever think I would have served for 25 years, and I was a SIGINT guy, so did tours up at Fort Meade at NSA. I ran a SIGINT site in Guam. A lot of time in DC, which isn't always the greatest, but then ended up doing 3 tours in Iraq, 3 tours in Afghanistan, Commander Recon Battalion, then 06 Command at Headquarter Battalion. So, I mean, just, a lot of different places, a lot of different things, but a lot of great people. And I think one of the things I will say is that not every tour was maybe as fun as the other tours. I mean, being a commanding officer of a Recon Battalion is hard to beat. But everywhere I was, I always had great Marines working for me, and I always learned something. Maybe the job, being at headquarters Marine Corps, wasn't exactly optimal as a lieutenant and captain, but you bloom where you're planted, and you kind of figure things out, and you get something, whether good or bad, from everywhere you're stationed in your military career, right? You learn from bad leadership as much as you do from good leadership, right? And you're always putting those things in your kit bag to help you be a better leader. And I think that's what hopefully I did through about the course of my 25 years, and help you to, at some point, transition out, as we all do, no matter if you do, like I said, 4 or 40, at some point you got to leave. So, right.
At some point you got to go. So let me ask you a leadership question real quick. And it's something it hits me up, and now retired for 8 years. And the leader you were when you were a commander, right? You've been separated now for some time, right? I've been gone 8, you've been gone a little longer than I have, not much, but a little bit longer than I have. What, do you ever consider there are some things you would have done a little differently as a leader, now versus then? Like, with the information you have now, would you be able to go back and lead differently? Or are you kind of like a steadfast guy where your style was your style, and the decisions you made were right at the time, regardless of wherever you've been or experienced, right?
I think what I would say, I mean, having done 25 years and retired as a colonel, certainly my leadership style as a lieutenant, I had one tool in the tool bag, right? It was a hammer, right? Probably I was yelling at guys and was not a very good leader in retrospect, right? And I think the key is that, and especially as you're asked to lead, maybe civilians, or you're asked to lead all 4 services, or lead different ways, you have to, if you're a good leader, always be adapting your leadership style, right? And I think, you want to be able to have the right leadership tool that fits the right person you're leading, right? Not everybody responds to a hammer. Sometimes you need a screwdriver, or you need a drill, or you need a chisel, whatever it is, right? But I think over time, if you're a good leader, you're always filling up your leadership tool bag. So I feel like, for the most part, by the time I left, I had been in so many situations and had led a lot of civilians. I had led, GSs. I had led, a lot of different people. I felt it was pretty good. I guess I will say the one thing that it did take me some time to appreciate is that no matter where I was in the military, I do believe that everybody there thought I had their best interest in mind for the most part. I think that's something that, you can prove pretty quickly to your Marines, in particular, that you're a good leader and they're going to follow you, right? You have their back.
Oh, yeah.
Like moving over to Amazon, it took a while. Like I was doing a lot of the same things, and people are like, "Is this guy for real?" We've never had somebody that actually gave a shit about it. Like it's just different. They like, why are they? I'm like, look, I would tell them like, I have a retirement. I've been in. I don't need to be at this job. I want you to be successful. Yeah. It took them a long time to believe me. I'm like, I swear, I really want you to get promoted. I really want the best for you. And I think that was an interesting thing for me in the civilian world, that people are almost in disbelief when they get a leader that really puts their people first, because they're not used to it. So that was maybe the biggest challenge. The leadership style didn't change. It took longer for it to be effective, because the people were like, is this guy for real? I mean, he really wants us to be successful. And that I found that interesting, I think, more than anything.
The culture isn't accustomed to that, right? There's a culture which is accustomed to that, which you were in for 25 years, and the culture out there is a little different. And I agree. And I also, we have plenty of conversations amongst the transitioning folks, and when we're talking to people with employment is, in the military, there's usually a step program, meaning I get promoted here, I got to go to school to learn some things about leadership. I get promoted here, I got to go to school to learn some more things about leadership. And the real world out there, most things are, they see potential, or you've been really killing it, so they don't want to lose you, so they promote you ahead of peers. But there's no class given with it. There's an expectation that now, instead of typing on a computer, you're able to manage the people, and there's a disconnect. So the fact that someone does come in with the real, like, what's your agenda? Why are you being so nice to me? Why are you worried about me? I'm not worried so much about you. So I get that, and that's really interesting. Well, let me ask you this, Beau. So obviously through the last 8+ years now, I've talked to a lot of folks about transition, senior, junior alike. And a lot of times the junior folks look at 06s and above, or even E8s and E9s and above, when they go through transition, they're like, they're okay. They're gonna get a job like this. It's gonna be so easy. Colonels don't have anything to worry about. They got all their things straight. Their monies are straight. Their job, they got connections all out the wazoo. So the transition won't be difficult at all. Let me ask you, when you went through your transition, was there any challenges that you faced, whether it be the cultural change or even finding a job? What was your biggest challenges as you were walking through those doors?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me personally, and I think I am an anomaly in this in some ways. I loved the transition process because it was about talking to people, and I love networking. I mean, I had jackets, and I was doing that crazy stuff in the Marine Corps, which is not necessarily, always appreciated, or frowned upon sometimes. When I broke out the Elvis costume at the birthday ball, I'm like, who is this crazy guy, right? But it was my style. But I liked to network, and I liked talking to people. And so when it came time of transition, and I started reaching out to friends of mine from high school and college and military that had been out already, and family members, I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed talking to people. And I remember talking specifically to college buddies of mine, like, okay, you're in commercial real estate. You sell buildings. Well, what the hell does that mean? What do you do? Like, what is it? What do you do? I have no idea. I mean, you seem to make a lot of money. Like, what does that mean? I loved having those conversations to figure out as much what I did want to do as what I didn't want to do, right? Now, and I regret, and I retired out of command, so I regret that I probably didn't spend as much time as I wish I would have spent more time in transition. I don't know that mine was the best as far as being starting soon enough. I wish I would have started sooner, but I really did enjoy that process of it. To your specific question, though, being on the other side, to use the phrase here, right? Talking to colonels at Amazon that were getting out, I thought colonels were the worst at transitioning, because many of them, not all, but many of them had been removed from turning wrenches for a long, long time, right? And I didn't need someone at Amazon to come in and say, yes, give me course of action 2. Like, that's not what you're doing, right? You're doing your own travel claims. You're turning the wrenches. You're doing the work. You're making the slides, right? So if you're not up for that, if you're not really ready to go in there and work nights and weekends and be, the E5 again in mindset, to be the lieutenant again in mindset, then you're not going to be successful in the corporate world, right? So I think there's a there's a disconnect on what maybe colonels expect a job to be and the reality of what they can do. Because again, I can't just bring you into Amazon and be in charge of stuff. You have no idea how things work, right? So you have to be willing to take a step back and be willing to say, I don't know. And I think there are some that, not all, but some that had a problem with that and expected to come in and be in charge again. It's like, no, that's not how this works in the civilian world, right? So where I think if you're an E5 getting out, you have no problem like being told to like go, move that rock pile. Like, yeah, of course, I'll go and do it. I think that they would jump into it. Now their network may not be as good. They may not have the contacts. So that is probably a little more difficult, more challenging. But I think from the ability to kind of be able to be successful and do the job, that part is maybe easier for a junior person transitioning.
Yeah, and I love. I mean, you just said it all. There's nothing to piggyback on there because that is what I've found, and in the conversations that I still have. I mean, I've talked to, I've been doing 4Block for quite a long time, but I truly have transition conversations daily. And I listen and I see LinkedIn and I look at posts and I look at responses and I really like the interactions and a lot of the senior folks that I specifically deal with. Some of those things that you just said were some of the issues that they had walking in, but they've adapted to. I mean, I've got some really great success stories of people that have got in there. Started off and were like, hey, I'll take a back seat, and of course, in my opinion, take a back seat. Because soon you'll be in the front. You'll be driving. You just got to get in there to do it. And some of these guys, I mean, I'm just amazed by some of these stories that I have. So let's go into the idea. So you got out, you transitioned, and you didn't work at Amazon right away. That was a little bit further down the road. But what did that look like? So you got yourself a job, and then Amazon was kind of calling, if you will.
Yeah. So my first job was 100% through my network. I knew, again, in the process of networking, and I knew I wanted to live in Tampa for one thing. So you're always kind of narrowing your bullseye down in the transition process. So I knew exactly where I wanted to be. I had been at SoCon from 9 to 12. Had a house down here and kind of one of those things. Hey, 25 years, I'd pick where we go. My wife wanted to go back to Tampa. I'm like, I'm good with that. Let's go. So Tampa was it. And then kind of figured out I wanted to be in operations. What does operations mean? I don't know exactly, but through process of phone calls and talking to people, an opportunity came up through a friend of a fraternity brother, again, networking, and a company that manufactured, installed fiber optic cable. Nothing I'd done before. They basically needed like a 2IC to come in there and help with a little bit of everything. It's kind of like almost like I say a chief of staff role, but I got involved with everything from marketing to sales to working on the production line. You name it, I got involved with it. And it was a great first job. Small company, a little 215 employees, but super eye-opening as well, right? I mean, when you realize in a small company, like if you don't sell, people get laid off. Like holy crap! It's like the paycheck doesn't automatically come on the first 15th. All this stuff. So like it's a little bit more of a, I better bust my butt. There's no relaxed days out here. You got to get out there and grind and figure this stuff out. So, but an amazing experience. And for the Amazon piece of it is, we actually did install work at 2 of Amazon's big fulfillment centers, right? They're full of fiber optics, all their robotics run on fiber, as you might imagine, Wi-Fi and fiber. So we finished those installs. My boss like, hey, do you know anybody at Amazon that can help find us how to, sell them more fiber optics? I'm like, well, LinkedIn. Who do I know on LinkedIn? And I go on there and I'm like, I see some people here, and I'm like, hey, Beau Higgins, been a while since we were in the Marine Corps. How do y'all buy fiber optic cable? Like, we have no idea how Amazon buys fiber optic cable, but the one person I did talk to, Kathleen Carroll, worked in the personnel side. She's a Marine that I had served with. It's like, hey, Jeff Bezos has made a pledge to hire 25,000 veterans. We're standing up this team. I know your personality. I think you could be great here at Amazon. Would you be interested in talking more? And I'm like, yeah, I'd be interested in talking more. So it was one of those things where I think for a lot of people too, I was not looking for a job, timing and just, I was open for a job. I wasn't looking, but it came up, and it was because I was kind of networking for a different opportunity. That one came up, and so funny how that always kind of works out, right? I mean, I think jobs often come up when you're not looking, or they're, just it's interesting how that happened. That's how the door got open for me at Amazon, and then I'm spending almost 7 years there growing their veterans focused program, which was awesome. So yeah.
And it was, and I got to say what I find to be interesting, and don't get me wrong here. I mean, I think your story isn't so uncommon, and I don't mean going from a company to Amazon. I think it's interesting when we talk about a 25-year Marine Corps intel officer now going into a fiber type company that has nothing really to do with intel at all. I mean, there's some aspects obviously, but moving over to be in Amazon, and I don't want to call you a recruiter, so to speak, but you really were. That has nothing to correlate to intel specifically, right? But the ability, because you have the soft skills, because you have the network ability, because you have a presence, there's a command presence, there's a you're just not one guy that does one thing. And I think that a lot of us have those things. We can't articulate it very well all the time. And I think that's a problem. But of course, your personality being what it is, I think that people see, I don't think it matters what your job is, because your personality fits with so many things. If you could fit with the Marine Corps in that manner, because, a Marine's a Marine, right? You could say, okay, it's a product line, and these people are towing the line because this is like, I can go outside and see who served in the Marine Corps, and then see who served in the Army per se, right? I can say, hey, this is a Marine guy. But the fact that you and many of my friends don't necessarily fit the mold of what that is, well, of course, that allows you to come out there and do some other things other than be just a Marine or just a intel guy. And I love the fact that you did. Oh, by the way, the way you could tell there's a leadership place for you, right? When you were to be out there with the just different organizations as you were looking to hire those 25,000 veterans, right? You're putting yourself in a position to relate to us, to talk to us, and to say, hey, look, it's going to be okay. We have a place here for you. But your honesty about it was always phenomenal. I mean, because Amazon is not the retirement, like put your feet up and I'm going to call it a day and hang out, because it's a butt buster, right? You're working when you're there, right?
It's funny you say that, though, because when I first got there, I was a little more like, oh yeah, you'll come in, you'll be great. It's, we have these great jobs. And over time, and pretty quickly over time, like, okay, I gotta be more realistic about my pitch to tell people, like, look, this is the deal. I don't know if it's for you or not. And I think I wanted people to understand, mostly because I didn't want them to come in and fail. Because again, understand this is going to be day on, stay on, 3-day, 4-day shifts, and crazy at the holidays. If you do it, but people saw the compensation, like, well, I can, the money's great. I'm like, money, not gonna lie, but understand if you've been on deployment for the last 5 years and want a place where you're taking a knee and drinking water and on a 9 to 5, this is not it, right? So just make sure that the culture, the job you're getting, that is in line with what you think you want to do once you leave the military. If you think you're going into a, retirement job, this is not it. So I definitely refined my pitch to be more, okay, not that I'm saying you can't do it. You probably can. Do you want to do it? This is what you really want, because it's going to ask things of you that are going to be hard, and they're going to be time consuming, and you have to be all in. And again, if you're done, especially guys that have done, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, maybe you want something that's a little more, not nothing against my GS brethren, but I mean, you might want something that's a little more laid back, man. I don't know.
A little bit more family friendly. Well, you know what? I mean, and I think what's great though is even just saying that. So forget the pitch, forget that you were there. How many times have we talked to transition and service members about their next opportunity, right? To do research on the company, to have those informational interviews, to have conversations before they even apply. Because again, we might look at Indeed or even LinkedIn now that they post salaries and stuff, and you may see that compensation piece and say, that's for me. That's what I need to make myself whole. And then you go and apply, and the next thing you know, 3 months later, you're burnt out because you didn't do just that. So I think it's, I think you really helped the service member as they looked at Amazon as a opportunity. And I know several that took jobs and still work there, right? They were ready for it, they loved it, and they still love it, right? And then I know several that jumped on and quickly jumped off, right? And even though they were told what it could be like and they were prepared, but maybe their family member wasn't so prepared because they thought it was time to take a break. But either way, I think what you're saying is no different than, hey, do research on the company so you know what you're about to get into.
I say that all the time. I mean, I think a veteran, any veteran, can do the job at 50 companies, but right, where are you going to be a fit where it's going to be something you're going to be happy and it's a good fit for your personality of where you are at this point in your life, right? So the culture of Amazon is very different than the one at USAA, than the one at Google, than the one at JP Morgan. All of them are different, and you have to understand, where are you at this point in your life? You know, what's important to you? Because if you get there, can you do the work itself is almost not important. Not, I say it's not important, but it's equally important to be part of a culture where you are going to have a good, you know, that work-life balance piece where you're mentally going to be happy because you've been busting your butt in the military, and you're looking for something different for a reason, or maybe you're not looking, or maybe you want something like the military and it's not going to be like that either. So I mean, you know, you want something that's going to fit where you are in your mental space at that point in time. You know, so do that work on the cultures and be hugely important for how long you stick around.
No doubt. I think a lot of folks, you know, it's one thing to say, I'm so excited because I can do anything I want now, right? Because, you know, in the military, you don't have to do anything you want. You do with what's within the realm of possible that they tell you you're going to do, right? For assignments, right. I mean, you might get lucky and get the one you wanted, but at the end of the day, you're being told yes or no. I think that's an interesting thing, to be excited to be able to make your choice, but the reality of it all is you really have no idea how to do that. And I don't want to call people dumb, because they're not. They're inexperienced in that aspect. You don't get to call your branch or your detailer or whatever and say, what's the culture like at insert said organization I'm going to in the military?
Yeah.
Do I want to do it or I don't? You know, you just go. And then you make the culture what you make it, because you're either a commander or you fall in line because you're not. And that's just the way it works, right? But out here, you gotta make some phone calls, and you got to really ask. And if you call the CEO, no different if you call the commander and you ask them the culture of their company, of course they're going to say, we're the best one around.
Right. Yeah.
You got to call those guys that are potential peers of yours, even the younger guys, the folks that are just doing the work every day. And if they say, it's just a job and it pays me, you might want to reconsider going there. At the same time, if they say, I love this place, now it's, hey, maybe I really got to apply, or at least get my resume in front of someone. So that's awesome. So you were at Amazon for 7 years, and then did you decide? I mean, was it a transition again, or was it a moving from Amazon to another position?
Yeah. You know, it was a great run, and did some amazing things, and grew our program. You know, from initially a commitment of hiring 25,000 veterans to a commitment of 100,000 veterans, and then a variety of factors. I mean, the military team itself was changing. I think the hiring numbers at Amazon overall, post-COVID, during COVID, Amazon, from one of the companies, just grew like exponentially, right? I mean, it went, because everybody lived off of Amazon, right? So the hiring was like 20x. And so after that, it was like Amazon was trying to figure out where they were going and what they wanted to do. And it was just, and again, 7 years there is a long time. I think for me, it was just, I was looking at that and where I wanted to go next, and saw potentially doing less just because of the demand signal for hiring was going down a little bit. And I'm like, and we worked with, when I was at Amazon, and Amazon still works with a company called Opline, which is a tool that uses tech to match veterans to jobs, right? So we use our recruiters and sources at Amazon used and still use Opline to help find and hire veterans. So I ended up talking to the Opline guys, or they reached out to me and said, hey, you know, would you be interested in potentially joining our team? And I'm like, you know, I think maybe the time could be right. Let's talk a little more, and had a couple conversations, and yeah, timing worked out. Again, 7 years was great. And but I knew I loved the space. I loved what I was doing. I loved being, you know, I say an influencer, and love the branding piece of it. So to be able to move into something that was related to military hiring, is in military hiring, but maybe at a little bit slower pace was great. And started actually my own LLC, focused on veteran hiring, right? So Opline, I work with and for Opline, I work with and for the MilVet, and I do several things. You know, I call myself a veteran hiring expert, you know, but do some consulting for veteran hiring. So I was able to pivot from working at a big company to small. I mean, I think that's what I think a lot of people I talk to also, you've been in the corporate world for a long time. And to no longer have to go to a million one-on-ones and no longer have a team and go to all the, the HR meetings. It was nice. I'm not going to lie, nothing wrong with it. Again, at big corporate America, there's perks, don't get me wrong, but I was happy to kind of take that step back and just slow down a little bit. So yeah.
No doubt. And so one, being a veteran hiring expert and just being someone that's in that space is phenomenal because it's needed. If it weren't, then obviously you'd be out of a job and you wouldn't see so many posts on LinkedIn, open to work, and then having conversations and networking things. So let me ask you this: as you're doing this now, obviously, I've probably been more in transition this past 6 months than I was even when I transitioned back in 17. It's been a really interesting thing, but I think because I've spent so much time in this space, experiential, though I didn't experience it firsthand early, all of the conversations and all the education has helped me really walk through this piece. And I don't want to say stressless, but very, very low on a stressful perspective. But with all that being said, what are some things that you see just within the day-to-day conversations? What are some things that the veterans are doing wrong? What are some things that they're getting right? And then what are they typically reaching out to you to help them solve? And I mean, other than saying, "Hey, Beau, get me a job," because that sounds good. And we can talk a little bit about that, but really, what is it that you're seeing that they're doing right, and what are they doing wrong, and where can they fix it?
I think one of the biggest challenges veterans have these days is there's almost too much information thrown at them, right? I mean, you hear the phrase all the time, you can drown in a sea of goodwill, right? There's try this program, that program, this, and they don't know what to believe, and they don't know where to start. Like, where do you start? I mean, that's probably the one of the hardest things veterans have to figure out these days is just how do I get started in this thing? Which of these offerings do I take up? Who's right for me? And I can't necessarily say, exactly who's right for what person, but the things that I say that what I've seen to be successful and what I recommend for, and I have one-on-one calls with veterans every day. Literally, I have probably 3 or 4 of them every day. I do believe that mentorship is important. Talk to somebody that's been there, done that, right? Again, I'll talk to you for 30 minutes, but I do like ACP, American Corp Partners. I think, get a mentor, have someone that will work with you for a year that can open doors for you. I think that is invaluable to find a mentor, whether you use ACP or whoever you're using. 50 Strong now has a mentoring platform. There's others out there. Don't care, but find someone you can talk to that will tell you it's going to be okay and has been there before. It can open doors for you. I mean, that is super helpful, right? I mean, obviously, I'm a believer in upline, right? You don't know where to start your process. You don't know how to translate your skills as a veteran into jobs that are open. That's what Upline does, right? It's a targeting tool that'll take you 15 minutes, and it will quickly show you in 15 minutes how your skills as an 0311, 11 Bravo, as a whatever rate you are, especially for combat arms guys, or it can show you where you're wanted in the labor market, right? So spend the time to do that. It's a targeting tool that will at least let you know that you're a fit and there's jobs for you. That will save you time and focus you in the right direction. I think that's a super important tool. Network. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, not that that's any kind of a genius thing to say, but it's like, there's a great TED Talk, 50 Cups of Coffee out there. Just talk to people. The way you're going to get a job is not applying online. And so many veterans get frustrated. I've applied to 200 jobs and I heard back from one. I'm like, it doesn't work. I mean, I have nothing against it. You have to sometimes get in the company's ATS. Networking is what gets you jobs, and whether that means calling up your buddies, whether that means going to in-person events, but going to the base, whatever networking is or how that means to you, you have to do it. That's what's going to get you a job at the end of the day, because somebody is going to get your resume to a hiring manager somewhere, and that's how it works at the end of the day, right? So you got to figure out where the job is first, and then you can network in to get it. That's why I like Hopline, because at least I'll tell you where the job is. From there, it's up to you to get the 5-yard line to the goal line. At least I've told you there's an open job that fits your skills at company X. So, but networking is probably the thing that, if there's one letter difference between networking and not working, right? So if you're not networking, you're probably not working. So get out there and network. So that's what I would say. Again, I think the biggest challenge the veterans have is that there's just too much out there, and they get overwhelmed by the options of it, and they feel like networking is a dirty word somehow. That like, oh, networking is like there's some negative connotation. I'm like, what did you think you did as an E4 in the military? If you wanted to get something from your buddy, you wanted more ammo, you wanted better chow, you had a hookup. Call it hookup is networking. So like that's what you were doing the whole time in the military. So like, do that, whatever you want to call that, do that. And that's what's going to get you the job, So it just makes you laugh. Like
I'm going to use that. Like I'm going to be like, hey, whatever you want to call it, that's fine, but do that, because it is interesting. And we go through these conversations. I have a lot of introverted friends. You and I are very extroverted. I'm a guy that I can go into a room and somehow, some way, I got a microphone all of a sudden. I don't even know why. Like it just, right? Where I've got friends that are in the corner, right? And even on LinkedIn, and that's some of the things that I talk about specifically to those, because there'll always be a group of introverts that are kind of like just set aside, and they're like, and I'll go talk to them specifically because I'm like, look, I'm outgoing. I remember when I first got out of the military, I went to almost every type of networking event. I had no business of being at a lot of these things, but I went and I enjoyed myself. It was tiring, but I met a bunch of folks that had no reason to be there, but it was fun. For these folks that are less extroverted, much more introverted, even responding on LinkedIn is challenging for them. And I said, look, at the end of the day, you may not want to go out and go to these events. You may not want to go and post and repost and all this stuff, because that's not who you are. But at the end of the day, there are connection requests. There are messages that you can type, and it's very quiet, but it's still networking. It's communicating with someone that you don't know about something they don't know about you. They may ask you for a conversation. Have an open one-on-one conversation. You don't have to do it in person, but open your eyes and your ears to the possibilities, because the thing is, to your point, people hire people still. So ATS, I give ATS a props though. It was 2:03 in the morning, I think 2:03. I submitted this resume that I used for business development to Walmart down the street for a general manager position. By 2:07, it said we're not going to move forward. Which I was like, oh, good for you. I wish they would have still hired me.
Yeah, right. But still, a response is even alone is a good thing, right? Yeah.
The fact that it responded was great, but that's about the only one. But to your point, I had several conversations, and most of those are what led to interviews or calls. ATS applications, I might have submitted 7. I had no responses to any of those, but I mean, at the end of the day, I had all my calls because someone knew me or recommended that they talk. So I mean, to your point, I think it's spot on. I know several folks right now that have applied at multiple hundred positions with no responses, and it's like I've told you when you were at 0 applications, I told you call someone. When you were at 30, and 70, let's see at what point, But anyway, it is. Sometimes you just can't teach folks; they want to do it their way, and it's so be it. They'll find their way eventually. But no, that's good. But I think everything you said is good. And you know what? By the way, and I'm really looking forward to using your tool. I wish I would have even thought about it, because I've seen it. I mean, I've seen you promoting it. I've seen it out there. I just didn't use it. But what I think is interesting, because I actually posted or replied to a comment to a lady who's she's a female pilot, and she was thinking about what does she do next, right? Because what is a pilot going to do except for fly? I know several pilots that don't touch aircraft, right, at all, and in many ways. But what I was thinking is, you had talked about finding things you didn't want to do, and if you use your tool, it might lay out a bunch of jobs. But you can also, instead of saying, I want that job, remove the things you don't want, and it takes away the noise. And I think that, to your point, with all the programs, with all the resources, with all the individuals on LinkedIn talking about transition, remove some noise. Find the ones you want to follow, and they're all out there. I mean, I'm not the voice. I'm not like, I don't have a monopoly on good ideas. I don't have a monopoly on transition. And I sure as hell don't think anybody believes that of me, right? At the end of the day, I'm providing stories for people to hear. And if they want to hear it, it's great. And if they don't, there's someone else. But find someone that you trust. They say like trust, like know, like trust. Find those people and follow them and to your success, because they'll take you there. I mean, there's so many great people on social media that are doing what you're doing, Beau. We can list 20 of them probably like this, because they're out there. But when there's so much noise, how do you figure out what's right, what's wrong? And that's why I speak in generalities as opposed to specifics, because I think it's different for
No,
a lot.
it's I think I saw a stat somewhere, and maybe even higher. More than 50% of folks leaving the military don't want to do what they did in the military, right? So how do you translate your skills from the military to civilian world if that's not what you want to do? And I think it's especially hard, if you're a bosun's mate or a tanker or an artilleryman, right?
Sure.
Those are hard skills. We don't really need those in the civilian world. But what they do need are people that can do inspections and do quality checks and track inventory, and work at night and in weather. Like power companies love veterans, but veterans don't think, oh, right, why would I be able to work at a power company? Well, because you're not afraid to work at heights at night in the rain, hungover. They want you, right? But their brain doesn't think that way. So if a tool can show you a company that you've never heard of that has a job for you, well, use it, right? And it's free. So I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's why the machine learning and the smart of a tool that can help you realize that, hey, we have tens of thousands of companies' jobs in here, most of which you've never heard of them. They would love to hire you, and you have skills. They tell the skills they want every day in their job openings, and you have those skills. Did you check them off? Match them up, figure it out. So
that's beautiful, because that is, I just made a post a few weeks back. I think one of my friends is retiring from the Army after a long time, and he did his last jump at Barton Field up at Fort Gordon during TechNet. Or Fort Eisenhower. I don't know what it's called nowadays. I always messed up. Whatever. Anyhow, he had posted it on LinkedIn, and I just loved his post. He's a communicator. He's done it for his whole career. He's an amazing human being, great leader, great soldier, right? But the one thing I saw, I'm a master rated jump master, and I never used that to get a job because I was a commo guy, right? I was a radio guy. But when I looked at him doing it, I took all the things, because I know what it's like to be what you have to put into one single airborne operation, right? As the primary jump master, because he was the primary. And I wrote it down. And I'll tell you, that's not even his day job. But with all of the jumps he's done and all the primary jump master duties he did, if you look at what that entails, and it's nothing to do with, there's communications involved with it, but it's so much more from.
It's quality control. It's all that are things that in the beauty of the Opline tool. If you click off, you have that school, it will give you like credit for that. So we get it. We figured that out. And people don't think that. Well, that was just something I did for fun. Well, actually, that's pretty freaking awesome. And people want people that can do that kind of stuff. That's hard.
I think that's a showstopper right there. That's a game changer right there, Beau. I'm looking forward. I'm going to promote this like crazy now. For me, it would have been helpful, but don't get me wrong. I've been landing where I'm supposed to land, and I'm really excited about my future and all that good stuff. But I'll tell you, just having these, I think the thing that I enjoy is kind of what you gave me in our first meeting, right? Is you gave me confidence and an ability to kind of just be. You'll be okay, right? And I believe that wholeheartedly. And when I'm talking to these folks that like 05s, I had a conversation with a Marine Corps 05 who's an infantry guy, and he doesn't want to be infantry, and he's wondering, he's about 18 months out, and he's like, I don't want to say he's scared, because he's not scared, but there's definitely some anxiety. There's definitely some feeling of, I have obligations to my family. I don't know where I'm going to go. And I think that many of us have been there, but it's really interesting to have the conversation with him. He sent me a note about 6 hours later and said, I just want to let you know how good I feel after talking to you, because now at least I'm a little bit more confident in what's out there for me. And my goal isn't to lie to him. I know he's going to be okay. But it's the fact that someone like Beau is out here and other folks, just so many that can help with that. This tool is going to be great for him. I guarantee it, amongst other folks. And I'm excited to have those people that are out there just, giving these folks some confidence, because hell, I tell them all the time, I said, man, you were so successful, all of you, women, men, it doesn't matter where you came from. The successful folks in the military, I'm just like, it's going to transition over. You'll be the work you put in to be successful here, put it in again, and you're going to kill it out there, because it's not as competitive. It might be competitive to get into the job market because it's just a competitive time. But once you're in those seats, I see people thrive and just crush it because they're leaps and bounds ahead of their contemporaries on the other side, just because of the leadership they do bring, the management, the quality of work, the work ethic, all the things that people talk about. And I believe that to be hard. So I think he's going to be phenomenal. But no, I appreciate it. All right. So look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you before I ask you the last question. I'm going to ask you this one last question. If you have one piece of advice just to give someone like you getting ready to get out and you're uncertain or unsure of yourself walking out the door, even though you enjoyed the transition piece like I did, what would it be from this side of the playing field as you're getting ready to walk out?
Yeah, I mean, and it's advice I didn't follow, to be candid. It's start as early as possible. Honestly, I mean, as soon as you join the military, you're going to be leaving sometime. And I talked to some people that get that and are always in some way kind of like have that, like a plan for if something goes wrong, what they're going to do next. Like if you can just, have that mindset that it's always good to be, don't lose like contact with your family, your friends, your network, because to your point of the guy that's been in for 20 years, you can get institutionalized in the military, right? And if all of a sudden you've been in 20 years and you don't have any friends from high school anymore, you've lost, all you have is your buddies in the military, it can be really, really scary, right? So try to stay connected as best you can. And again, even if you haven't been connected, start the process as early as possible. Don't hang on working till the last day by your fingernails because you feel like the military needs you. They're going to be fine. The military is going to be just fine. Take the time to do the things you need to do to take care of yourself. And I'm sure people don't listen. I talk to guys all the day that work till their last possible second.
Oh yeah.
Take the time to do it, because otherwise you're going to set yourself up for failure if you don't. But yeah.
Because then it like it said, they say it's easier to find a job when you have a job, as opposed to now I'm on terminal leave and terminal leave ends, and I thought I'd have a job much quicker, but I was dealing with the VA or whatever I was dealing with. That's time consuming. Now I'm out here and I don't have a job, and now I got to figure out where the next dollar's coming from.
I made the analogy, it's the same thing as like having a girlfriend. When you have a girlfriend, the girls think you're attractive. If you don't have a girlfriend, they think something's wrong with you. So like, it's better you can find a job when you got a job. If you don't,
I think that's a beautiful analogy. I completely relate. Understood. All right. So here's the last question I'm going to ask. Every show I do a you can't make this up moment. I think in the military we have things that happen in the military that our friends that never served are like, how did you live? What happened? Like, how did you even, what are you doing? Right. So it's what is your, you can't make this type of story from the military time.
I'm going to tell a story about myself and make fun of myself. And I still to this day hold that I was not wrong for this, but I did get in some trouble for it. So I went off to my best friend's wedding in Boston. This is when I'm a lieutenant, and I come back and I fly in super late, and I drive right from the airport. I think I landed in Charlotte, and I got to get back to Camp Lejeune. I landed at 6 a.m. and I'm driving right over to Lejeune, and I get there, and the whole battalion, I'm at 2nd Radio Battalion in Lejeune, is lined up for an IG inspection, and they're doing the physical fitness test. And apparently I'm on the list to do the PFT that morning. And I have a leave chip in my hand that says it doesn't expire till 08, but my commanding officer is like, they're yelling for Higgins and he's going to get in trouble if Higgins isn't there. So I show up like hungover, and I didn't have my green on green PT gear. So I'm like running through the barracks trying to find somebody to borrow PT gear from. And as fate would have it, Matt, I find the smaller, I'm 6'5", at the time, 230, but still, I'm a giant Marine. The only guy I could find was like a broken, 5 foot tall, 100, so I get a size medium pair of shorts and a medium green shirt, and I run out there to formation, and I can see my CO's face like turn, and it's not pretty. I mean, I know it's not pretty, you know. So I got to do my sit-ups, I hold my legs in like a half shirt and like a bikini bottoms, and the pull-ups is not much of a pretty sight either. I ran my ass off. I mean, I ran good. But then I got my first non-punitive letter of caution for missing my formation. So yeah, it all worked out. I ended up surviving, but yeah, not a pretty sight. So yeah.
You know what's horrible is as you were telling a story, because I do know what you look like in real life, right? And so as soon as you started to alluding to who you found, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
God, that is absolutely hilarious. I would love to see it, but you know what? Those are some of the best stories. I mean, because you know what? I'll tell you, I can almost guarantee you every single Marine that was in that formation to this day would be able to tell that same story. They may not know your name because they weren't close enough, but you created a lifelong memory.
The tall lieutenant that showed up wearing the half shirt and the bikini bottoms. That was me.
That is phenomenal. Outstanding. Hey, well, listen, Beau, it's been my pleasure and my honor to have you. I am super excited that you came on, and I definitely look forward to continuing this relationship, looking at the things you have going on, and definitely want to support you in any kind of way. I just love what you do, and you have been a pinnacle. You've been not a pinnacle, but you've been there's a word that I just completely lost because I heard a door close, but I'm sorry, squirrel, right? But you've been that person that's been a staple, right? A staple is what I was going to in our community as we transition, and we look forward to the things you post, things you do, and we're always looking at you for the guiding star for this transition, because you make it easier for all of us. So we appreciate you sincerely, and thank you for taking some time to hang out with us.
Hey, my pleasure being here. Look forward to seeing you again soon. And you're doing, I mean, you're part of this whole thing. I don't do it alone. It's part of an ecosystem, and you're a huge part of it as well. So thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. Look forward to our paths crossing soon, and me wearing a great jacket like the one you have there. So good stuff. Yeah.
I'll make sure to match it next time. Hey, everybody, thank you for coming. I hope to see you next week. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday, Transition Tuesday. A new episode will drop. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on the other side.